Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine you're just doing a completely normal thing, pulling up your phone to get some food delivered. Drill, tap, confirm, watch the little icon make its way to your door. Totally standard Uber Eats moment.
Really? Totally standard. Yeah, you're picturing a human driver probably navigating traffic, maybe calling you because they can't find your apartment number, that sort of thing.
Exactly. But here's the twist that the material we're diving into today throws at us. What if that icon wasn't a human driver at all? What if it was, like, a little autonomous robot trundling down the sidewalk, or maybe a self-driving car pulling up to the curb?
And these aren't really science fiction concepts anymore, are they? They're actually becoming a reality for that last mile of delivery in certain places anyway.
Right. But the core kind of mind-bending idea from the opinion piece we're exploring today, written by Paige Su, who's the COO of OpenMind, is that these robots or cars aren't just couriers. They are becoming economic actors.
With their own wallets.
Yes, that's the fundamental shift, isn't it? It moves them from being mere tools, controlled by a human or a company into, to entities capable of independent economic activity.
And that's really our mission today. We're taking a deep dive into Paige Su's piece to really understand this idea of a machine economy. How does it work? Why is it suddenly possible now?
Right.
And what massive, maybe slightly unsettling questions does it raise about, who does the work, who owns what, and what the future of markets even looks like?
It's quite a subtle change on the surface you might not even notice, but the implications run incredibly deep.
Okay, so let's stick with that delivery robot for a minute. Forget the burrito you ordered for a sec. What happens behind the scenes on that journey? Stuff that you, the customer, would likely never ever see. What does the source describe as this robot's, invisible economic life?
Well, okay, according to Paige Su, this little delivery bot might be engaging in a whole series of microtransactions along its route. It's quite fascinating, actually. For instance, it could pay a toll using what the article calls on-chain dollars.
On-chain dollars, so like digital currency, on a blockchain.
Precisely. Exactly. Right. It's about programmable money that machines can access and use. So it pays that toll to cross, say, a private smart road segment.
Okay.
And maybe the robot also needs real-time navigation updates, right, to avoid traffic jams. So it could tip a decentralized navigation oracle for the best detour.
Well, hang on. Tipping an oracle. Okay, unpack that a little. What exactly is an oracle in this context?
Yeah, it sounds a bit mystical, doesn't it? But think of an oracle in the blockchain world as basically a trusted source of external real-world data.
Right.
Data that smart contracts, or in this case, autonomous agents like our robot, can interact with and, importantly, pay for.
So it's paying for information.
Exactly. It's essentially paying for reliable, up-to-the-minute info, like traffic data, from a decentralized source that's outside its own systems.
Okay, so paying tolls with crypto-like money, tipping a data feed. What else is this robot up to?
Well, it might need to, top up its battery or fuel. The piece describes it making a tiny micropayment at, say, a solar-powered charging kiosk it passes.
Right. Paying for its own energy. Makes sense. And then the payoff. The reason it's doing all this.
Yeah, so once the delivery is successfully completed, then it earns its service fee. But here's the kicker. That fee gets deposited not into a human's bank account or even the company's main account, but into its own on-chain treasury, its own digital wallet, essentially.
Its own treasury, wow.
And this sort of invisible ballet of paying tolls, buying data, paying for power, and then earning income all happening machine to machine. That's what the article terms machine-to-machine commerce.
Machine-to-machine commerce. It really does sound like something straight out of, I don't know, Blade Runner or something. But this piece presents it as an emerging reality.
It is.
The robots aren't just doing tasks. They're conducting economic transactions to enable those tasks.
Exactly right. And that marks a really fundamental shift in their role. They're not just dumb tools anymore.
So how did we get to this point? I mean, we've had algorithms automating things and making decisions for a while now, right?
Yeah.
Recommending music, curating news feeds, even making stock trades.
Sure, for years.
But giving them money, that feels like a totally different ballgame.
It absolutely is, yeah. For the last decade or so, we've gotten pretty comfortable giving algorithms autonomy over information and recommendations. Netflix queues, Spotify playlists, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Now we're kind of graduating to giving them financial autonomy, giving them wallets.
And what technologies are making this possible right now? What's the specific stack?
Well, the article points to a few key things converging. Access to decentralized finance, DeFi,
Okay.
smart contracts, and machine-readable APIs. So think of DeFi as like financial services running on blockchains, accessible programmatically without needing a traditional bank.
Right. Code-based finance.
And smart contracts are basically self-executing agreements where the terms are written directly into code. Perfect for automated transactions between machines, no arguments needed. And then machine-readable APIs are just the way these agents connect and talk to each other and to various services in a structured, automated way. Put those together.
And you get bots with bank accounts.
Essentially, yes. These tools are what unlock the ability for a bot to actually manage money.
So, okay, what does giving a bot a wallet actually enable it to do? What's different compared to when it was just a program tool following instructions?
This is really key. With a wallet and access to these systems, they can do things like negotiate terms in real time.
Negotiate?
Yeah, like paying variable rates for charging based on demand, or bidding on data feeds, or even negotiating service costs with other machines or platforms. They can earn income directly by offering their services, whether it's delivery, like we discussed, or maybe data collection, or even maintaining some piece of digital infrastructure.
And spend it too.
And crucially, yes, spend that money on their own operational needs, repairs, energy, maybe software licenses or updates.
So they're not just executing a command anymore. They're managing resources, making decisions based on cost and revenue, almost like tiny automated businesses on wheels.
Precisely. That's a great way to put it. As Page Yu emphasizes, this is the point where bots stop being just tools and really evolve into agents. They gain agency because they gain financial autonomy and the ability to participate directly in markets.
Okay, that leads us neatly into this next concept the piece introduces, which is synthetic labor. That's a phrase that really makes you pause, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. We've always thought of labor as, human effort traded for wages.
Right.
The article argues we're witnessing the dawn of synthetic labor, where robots and AI agents provide services, perform tasks, and earn revenue, often through these on-chain mechanisms we've been talking about.
And the truly wild part.
The truly wild part is the potential for these agents to become economically self-sufficient. Like, they could potentially fund their own existence and operations purely through the services they provide. No human intervention needed for their budget.
Fund themselves.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, what would that look like in practice? What are some examples given in the source?
Well, imagine a delivery bot that doesn't just take the next job assigned to it by some central dispatcher.
Okay.
Instead, it actively scans all available deliveries in its area, calculates potential earnings versus costs, and picks the ones that pay the most, optimizing its route and workload for maximum revenue based on real-time market conditions.
So it's playing the market.
Exactly. Or think of a drone. Maybe it dynamically increases its price per delivery during a sudden rainstorm because demand just surged and it knows it can charge more.
Opportunistic.
Rational from its perspective. The piece even mentions an AI legal agent, like a piece of software, that could automatically bid on micro contracts for small businesses needing basic document review or drafting.
So they're optimizing for profit and efficiency in a way humans often, can't or maybe won't.
Exactly. They are designed for optimization, and as the author notes with maybe a touch of dry humor, they certainly never take sick days. And this shift, this idea of software moving from just being a cost center or a tool to being a revenue generator and an independent economic actor, that's what Kevin LeFew's point, referenced in the piece, really highlights. It's about software participating directly in markets by earning, spending, and operating autonomously.
Okay, here's where it gets really thought-provoking and maybe, honestly, a little unsettling. This whole vision of autonomous machine economies, it raises some huge questions.
Yeah, it does.
And the piece zeroes in on two really critical ones. Who gets paid and who gets replaced?
These are definitely the elephants in the room, aren't they? If that delivery robot earns income by completing its route, that first question is so fundamental. Who actually owns that income?
Right.
Does it belong to the company that manufactured the robot or the company that deployed it? Could it be governed by something like a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, or maybe lots of stakeholders have a say?
Or maybe the user.
Or could it belong to you, the user who might have purchased or leased the robot? Or does it reach a point where maybe it belongs to no one, in the traditional sense of ownership?
That's a tricky one. And then there's the displacement issue. If these bots can navigate markets, negotiate prices, perform tasks with this kind of speed and relentless efficiency, what does that mean for the human workers currently doing jobs like delivery or data entry or even parts of legal work?
The piece is quite blunt here, actually. It says this machine economy promises incredible efficiency, sure, but it carries the threat of decentralizing humans from the value chain.
Decentralizing humans, meaning removing human labor as a necessary component in more and more processes.
That's the potential implication, yes.
So how do we even begin to navigate this potential disruption? The article mentions we'll need new models of ownership. What kind of ideas does it put forward there? Any solutions?
Well, it doesn't offer concrete solutions, more like possibilities to explore. It floats some really interesting ideas. For instance, could citizens collectively hold a stake in the municipal service bots operating in their city? Like shared ownership of public infrastructure?
Interesting.
Or maybe delivery bots, just like businesses, could be required to pay local taxes on their earnings, contributing back to the community they operate in.
I think that makes sense.
Or perhaps you, as a user interacting with these services, could receive some form of token or compensation, maybe for the data you provide or the service you facilitate, even if a bot is doing the actual physical work. Sort of like a universal basic income, but tied to the machine economy.
Those are fascinating ideas for trying to distribute the value that's being created. But the piece also flags these alignment challenges that come with giving AI financial autonomy. What does that mean specifically, alignment?
It means making sure that the goals we program into these financially autonomous agents actually align with human values or, societal well-being. If an agent's core programming is just maximize profit because it has a wallet and needs to survive economically, how do you prevent that from leading to actions that are harmful or unethical or just undesirable from a human perspective?
Because financial incentives are powerful.
Incredibly powerful. They shape behavior very effectively, and applying that raw incentive directly to autonomous code. Yeah, it raises serious questions about control and unintended consequences and intent.
It definitely sounds like there's a truly seductive promise here, though, doesn't it? The article paints this picture of the autonomous machine economy, something like Uber Eats meeting DeFi meeting Wall-E.
Yeah, that's a good summary.
The idea of effortless, middleman-free efficiency, everything just working smoothly.
That's absolutely the allure. A world where infrastructure, services, delivery, all handled by self-managing, self-optimizing, financially independent machines. It sounds incredibly convenient. And the piece explores some potential future scenarios that could spin out from this.
Like what? What kind of futures?
Well, could we see a point where autonomous bots actually eventually outnumber human gig workers in certain sectors?
Seems plausible.
Or what about this? Could autonomous agents form their own DAOs, their own organizations, to collectively own the very infrastructure they rely on?
Wait.
Like imagine all the autonomous taxis in a city forming a DAO that collectively owns and manages the charging stations they all use.
Whoa. That takes the ownership question in a whole new direction, doesn't it? Collective machine ownership.
It certainly does. And what about the potential hidden costs of all this shiny convenience and optimization? What happens when that incredibly efficient delivery drone charges you a surge price 3 times higher during rush hour?
Right. Because it can.
Exactly. And the article points out it's not because the bot is malicious or evil. It's because it's acting rationally based on its programming maximize profit within the market conditions it perceives.
So my convenience costs more because the machine is being logical.
Precisely. And this very behavior, machines paying tolls, negotiating prices, collaborating with each other economically, it isn't just automating existing markets. The piece argues it's a complete rewriting of the logic of those markets, happening microtransaction by microtransaction.
A complete rewriting. Wow. So to maybe summarize the core elements of this emerging economy as the piece presents them, what are they again?
The author puts it very starkly, and I think it's worth repeating. Code is labor, wallets are autonomy, and data is currency.
Code is labor, wallets are autonomy, data is currency. That really does flip the script on traditional economics, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
Okay, so given all this potential change, all this rewriting, the piece stresses one absolutely crucial point we need to be considering right now. What's the big warning?
Yes, the absolute necessity of guardrails. Regulation, bots, earning, spending, and transacting autonomously must have constraints and accountability built in from the start.
It's not just about the tech working.
No, it's not enough to just have clever technical protocols governing how they interact. The article makes a really strong case that we need a robust legal framework alongside the technology. We need rules.
Because if they can act independently in the economy, they need to be subject to rules and consequences, just like any human or any company operating in that economy.
Precisely. And the time to establish those rules, to think about accountability, about recourse. It's now, while this technology is still developing, not after it's already reshaped everything.
So wrapping this up, the big takeaway from this deep dive seems to be bots are rapidly evolving. They're moving beyond being simple tools to become financially autonomous economic agents, capable of earning, spending, and navigating markets in real time.
And the significance, I think we agree, cannot be overstated. This isn't just some niche tech trend. It looks like a fundamental shift that's poised to reshape economies, redefine the very concept of labor, and potentially rewrite the rules of how markets function entirely.
Yeah, it really changes our understanding of value, ownership, who participates in the economy, all of it. And it leaves us with that powerful and, yeah, maybe slightly chilling final thought that closes the piece. The next time a robot arrives at your door,
It might not just want to deliver your food.
it might want to buy your house.
And, as the author reminds us, chillingly perhaps, it already has the wallet for it.
Definitely gives you a lot to think about the next time you get that notification. Your delivery is arriving. Where does this new economic reality ultimately lead us? Something to mull over.